Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this MapInfo Pro version 2023 release webinar. We have a lot in store for you today. We're really excited to announce that the new version of our desktop GIS MapInfo Pro has been released. We're going to cover lots of stuff today, and my name is Ruslan. I'm your Master of Ceremonies, so I'll walk you through everything that we have in store for you. Before we jump right in, a few housekeeping items. So just because we have so much to cover today, please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A whenever you have a question. So at the end of the session, we're going to come back to your questions, and we'll make sure that our panel of experts can answer them for you. You'll receive the recording and the slides after the session, so don't have to worry about that. So everything that you see today, you'll have access to after this session. Let me quickly walk you through what we're going to have in store for you today. We're going to have Jennifer Coquinos walk us through what's new in MapInfo Pro version 2023. We'll have a wonderful 3D visualization demo from Peter Muller, and then we'll go back to you and hear from you and see what questions you have for us and in the open forum. And then I'll walk us through the knowledge resource overview so you have everything you need to know about MapInfo Pro. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have Jennifer Coquinos. Jennifer is the Director of Product Management for our Location Intelligence portfolio here at Precisely. I have a pleasure working with Jen a lot, and very excited to have her joining us today. Jen's role is to determine the strategy and the roadmap for MapInfo Pro and other location intelligence products that we have. So Jen will give us an overview today of what's new in this release, and also will be able to answer all your questions about the release and future plans. Hello, Jennifer. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Joining us, we also have Peter, or as we prefer to call him, Mr. MapInfo. It's our MapInfo Pro guru here at Precisely. He's a distinguished engineer and the man behind all the MapInfo Mondays and all the various updates you see, you know and love. So Peter will today walk us through the demo of 3D in the new release of MapInfo Pro, the 3D functionality as well as usability improvements that were suggested by you. So thanks, Peter, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a great pleasure for us to have you, Peter. And of course, we have Bob Foran joining us today. Bob is a distinguished engineer at Precisely and a senior technology architect behind MapInfo Pro. Bob has been heavily involved in the development of this release and will be joining us during the open forum to answer all your questions about MapInfo Pro. Thank you for joining, Bob, and thanks, everybody. Before we go to the overview of what's new in the MapInfo Pro, I just want to ask everybody joining us today, what version of MapInfo Pro are you currently using? We had a similar session for the Asia Pacific region a couple of days back, and we've already seen some people on the newest version of MapInfo Pro. If you want to get started with MapInfo Pro, you just go on our precisely.com website and yeah, request a free trial, and you'll have your hands on MapInfo Pro version 2023. So I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to answer, and we'll see what we have here. We also ran a similar session a year ago, so it's going to be interesting to see how the results change. So I'll give you a few minutes to respond. Okay, well, let us all see what the responses are. Oh, nobody's on the version 2023 anymore. Well, it's our job today to convince you to try it out for yourself, right? Any reactions from the speakers to these numbers? Any surprises that you see? I think it's a pretty good spread, right?
Yeah. I'm always surprised to see how many people we still have on version 15. It's usually a 32-bit thing. People are usually, I think, staying on 15. Maybe they have a custom application built on top of version 15. If anybody wants to put that in the chat, you know, why are you on 15? And is it because of the 32-bit? And then I'm always curious, you know, those people we have on 19 who did not yet move to 21, why are you guys on 19? So
that's a great set of questions. So we're going to be looking to hear from our users, and our main job is going to be today to convince those 22.2% who are not currently using MapInfo Pro to start using it today. So actually, with that, that's all I had. And Jen, I guess it's over to you, and you can walk us through what's new in the new release.
All right. Thank you, Ruslan. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen. As Ruslan said, I work in product management here at Precisely in our location intelligence division. And I am so excited to tell you guys today a little bit about version 2023. It was released now, oh my gosh, 2 days ago. It's been a whirlwind since then, but it's been 2 days. And we were able to get English, German, and French in this release, which is awesome. We will be working on the additional languages, and you'll see those coming out in the next couple of months. But we did get those 3 languages out with our first release a couple of days ago. So it's there. You can get it. All of you who have not yet downloaded it, we can help you out with that. All right, so let's do it's a quick overview. I think I've realized in doing this demo for our Asia Pacific region that a lot of what I'm doing is an opening act for Peter in our demo, because I'm giving you sort of the high level, and then he's going to show you for real what this is all about. But a lot of what we did in this version is focused on adding 3D visualization. It's something that we had heard from customers, just like you, that was important to them. And they felt like it was something that we should improve, right? So we did that in this release. And now you can see 3D. You can actually see 3D and 2D together. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's all going to come together for you when we see Peter's demo. We also enhanced our ability to connect to our enterprise level location intelligence product, Spectrum Spatial. And we did some usability enhancements and upgrades to MapInfo Marketplace. All right, let's talk a little bit about 3D. So you can visualize both vector and raster data inside of Pro. So this is not something that's a separate application that allows you to do 3D. It's all completely seamless within Pro. You get a new ribbon right there with 3D on it, and you'll see that from Peter. But what we did was we actually took a look at what we had already in MapInfo for 3D. And Peter actually looked it up, right? I think it's version 6.5 when we added it the first time, which was a long time ago. It was over 20 years back. So we've actually had some form of 3D support for quite a while. But that a lot's changed since then. Let's go there. And so what we did was we took a look at what did we have, what are options out there, and we chose OpenGL rendering using a package called deck.gl. And you guys can look that up online if you want to learn more about that. But that's what's powering our 3D in MapInfo. One of the things that's cool about this too is that your window is right there within MapInfo. So you can have your map window and your 3D map window right next to each other. So you can do comparisons that way. It's just another window in MapInfo, so you can save it to your workspace and it'll be there just like you left it when you come back. It's also, we decided to deliver it via an add-in. So what that means is that we won't need to be mindful of our release schedule for MapInfo Pro to make updates to this functionality. So that gives us the freedom to be very nimble, right? We can continuously enhance this functionality based on what we hear from customers. So when I think of 3D, I always immediately go to that, like in my head, the terrain use case, where you might have a satellite image. It could be an image, it could be tiles, and you're going to drape that over so you can see, for instance, like mountains and things like that, right? So you can really see what that particular terrain looks like. And so we are supporting that. That's where we went first. And then once you have that surface, right, then you want to put your own data onto it or some other data that's vector. And we support that as well. You'll see these things from Peter. You can also access your local tables or data from cloud or tile servers, as I mentioned. So you have lots of flexibility there. You can use all different kinds of data sources, not just our data sources. You can do different servers for base maps. I think Peter might actually show you one of those as well. But anything you'd like to connect to, you can. The other thing that we did was we wanted to make sure that 3D was something that people who, let's say you weren't super interested in elevation data or that typical terrain use case. If what you wanted to do was really help people understand data differently and maybe, at a glance, you can use 3D to actually visualize any kind of data, really. So if you wanted to show potentially areas of high visitation, maybe you take a hex cell or grid cell and you want to be able to extrude that, meaning show it in 3D, and then actually at a glance understand, okay, these are the high visitation areas or the low visitation areas. Could be anything, could be population, whatever you want. So 3D is valuable even if we're not talking about elevation. We also wanted to make sure that people who had a map in MapInfo could actually use that 2D map and then generate a 3D map from it and make sure that their styles were going to be preserved. So you'll see that when we do this, the 3D map's going to keep all of that information, which is great.
And half of what they're trying to do also goes away. Hi, Jennifer.
I'm sorry, guys. Hang on a second. Someone just tried to call me. I apologize. Okay. Where was I? Oh, yes. And probably one of my favorite parts of 3D is actually the fact that you can add 3D shapes to your map. So again, I'm the opening act for Peter. So what I find really interesting to see is you can get 3D shapes from various sources online. So you could get trees, or maybe it's a cell tower, or it could be, anything that you want really. And you could take that and you can put it in your map in MapInfo to give you that extra, I guess it could be a realistic thing that you're looking at. It could be, just to make your point more, with that map that you're creating. And, if you're going to be working in 3D, you want the ability to be able to create data. So you want and edit data. So you're able to set the values for both Z and M on nodes in MapInfo now. So I think Peter will talk a little bit about that as well. All right, so here are just a few of the use cases that we think that we have heard from customers that are going to be helped by using 3D, right? You may have some additional use cases. And again, this is our first release in a long time with 3D. So we want to hear more from you. If you're doing something that might be like a cell tower network planning, we want to hear about it. If you're more interested in habitat management or natural resources, we want to hear about that too. But these are some of the things that we've thought people could use it for. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our integration with Spectrum Spatial. And Spectrum Spatial is our enterprise location analytics platform. So we already had an integration in the past, right? And we've been listening to the customers who are using it, and they had some ideas for things that we can improve. So we want to go a little bit further with it in this release. I think a lot of what we did was making things much more usable, more accessible to users within Pro. So we have this new MapInfo feature service. It's an OGR driver. Here, there's a little picture of it here as an example. So now you can open, view, and edit named vector tables using that feature service. And you can upload MapInfo tables as well. We also enhanced the token and added token-based authentication, excuse me. And now, just as an aside here, it's not just for Spectrum Spatial. You can actually use this OGR web connection to connect to anything, right? I mean, Peter and I were talking earlier about how he's used this to access USGS earthquake data. So if there's something online, there's a service, you can connect to it, and you can open it right there in your map. All right, a few other enhancements for this release. All right, as I said, we definitely listen to our users. So the things that we added in this release are things that people asked for. And when you put in an idea on our ideas portal, we listen. We look at things that get a bunch of votes, and we see when we can get those done. So these are a few things that were included. When you take a look, let us know what you think. We also made some updates to MapInfo Marketplace to add some new tools. And I just wanted to quick mention that this is here. This allows you to extend capabilities of MapInfo Pro. One of the things that was added was actually created by Peter, and that's the draw tools. That's going to give you a UI for updating M and Z values on objects. So it's super useful with 3D. There were other enhancements here as well. All right, I think I mentioned that we have English, French, and German now. You can see the rest of the languages that we will have in the next couple of months. All right, and so we will be moving on to Japanese, Danish, Finnish, Swedish next. And I would say probably October timeframe. And of course, as I mentioned, we value your feedback. This is how we learn about what our customers really need. And so please go to the knowledge community or go on Precisely Ideas and let us know what you're looking for. Maybe something we haven't thought of, and we would love to hear from you. If a lot of other people think that it's a good idea too, they can vote on it, and then we will definitely take that into consideration for future releases. And if it's something that's 3D related, it's something that we don't have to wait for the next release to do.
Great point. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate your presentation. That was wonderful. Before we move on to the 3D demo that we alluded to many times now, I'm curious to see what industry are you in? Where are you joining us from? Looking at the attendees list, there's definitely a good bunch and a great mix. And while we're collecting the responses, I wanted to just go back to our previous question, and we got some responses on what versions people are on. So we have users joining using the version 12.5 and 15.6, as well as version 2019 and 2021 as well. Yeah, there was some rationale. So for the 12.5, they're saying that they need 2 pages on layout, which is supported on that version, which is kind of cool.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for letting us know. Like Jen mentioned, we love to hear from you. And as a prompt for the next question, let's show the results now and see what industries our users are working in. That's interesting. Many others. So we definitely want to hear
Great. Tell me what your others are. Yeah, put other into the chat, please. We would love to learn more. I'm also interested. We've got 8.5% mineral exploration, so that is cool. I know we do have quite a few when we talk with our Australian customers. There's a lot there, but it's significant portion here too. And of course, yes, we definitely have a good presence in public sector and telecom. But yeah, tell us what other is, please.
Definitely tell us what other is, and as I'm going to introduce Peter in just a minute, I already see him. He's going to steal the show for sure. Please let us know as you watch the demo in your industry, what are some applications of 3D visualization that you see? Because we'll definitely be more than interested to know about that. And with that, I'll pass it on to Peter.
Peter, you have your glasses today. I didn't think you needed those anymore.
Of course, we're doing 3D, right? So we need to put on our glasses. I'm sure you remember these from back in the days when we introduced the 3D window in MapInfo. I see some of the names that probably have been around at that time as well, right? This was the early 2000s when we introduced this. But now we're in the modern age, right? So you don't really need these glasses anymore. And thank God for that, because it's hard to see with those on. Let me share my screen here and run you through a couple of demos with the new version of MapInfo. So first of all, I want to give you an introduction to the MapInfo 3D that we're bringing to version 23. And what we are doing with this version, we're really unlocking a new dimension in MapInfo, a new dimension of visualization. So let me switch to MapInfo and bring it on to you. So let me take you on a journey 20 years back in time. Back in 2004, my wife and I, we took a safari across Kenya. So as you can see, I have an OpenStreetMap tile server open here. It's one of the precisely maps, right? So most people are probably familiar with at least one mountain in Africa, the Kilimanjaro. You can see it's standing here just on the border between Tanzania and Kenya. It's standing with a height of almost 5,900 meters. And so it's actually the highest mountain in Africa. It's hard to see when you look at it in this way, right? So let's try to see that in a 3D map instead. So I go to the new 3D map option up here. In this case, I'm going to use a elevation source, which is the MapSen Terrarium. So that is an open elevation data that covers the entire world. And we added this to MapInfo so that you don't need to go out sourcing this elevation model for taking advantage of the new 3D capabilities in MapInfo. I'm gonna drape my precisely steel on top of it so that you actually can see where you are when you see the map. And I don't want to add additional layers in this case. I'm just gonna do a very basic 3D map. Hit OK, and say OK here. And now you see the new 3D map here in MapInfo. So if I use my mouse and hold down my control key on my keyboard as well, I can quickly rotate and tilt my map. The mountain we're looking at currently is actually Kilimanjaro. You can see it's down here. And as I zoom in, you can also see that it's actually fetching better resolution tiles for that specific area. And again, rotating and tilting is very easy using either the mouse or even your keyboard if you prefer to. Now, we were going to Kenya, right? So we didn't get to spend time in Kilimanjaro, but we went to spend some time at maybe a less known mountain, Mount Kenya. And it has a height of 5,200 meters, so it's not even a small mountain, right? And with that height, it's actually the second largest mountain in Africa. And I just need to actually move a bit across here. And you can see it's actually quite close to Nairobi. And you have the mountain in this area here instead. And again, if I tilt the map, you can actually start seeing the mountain here. When we told people that we were going to to the Serena Mountain Lodge near the mountain here, the Africans, they kind of warned us because they said they were going to be cold up there, right? Down to 15 degrees Celsius. That's around 59 degrees Fahrenheit for the Americans amongst us. So that mountain lodge we stayed at was a 5-story wooden building facing a water hole. Let me actually try to show you how that looked if you see that in a 3D map. So I have another 3D map here where I draped a aerial image on top of my elevation model here, on top of my tile server layer. And you can see how the lodge actually is standing out here. It wasn't in fact red, but that's just the color I decided to give it here. And you can see that it's facing this water hole where we were able to, from our rooms at the lodge here, be able to actually look out and see all the animals come to drink water here. And you can actually see as well that we were able to see a number of animals, elephants and lions. In this case, I actually showed them as 3D shapes. And I just used 2 point layers to actually position where I wanted those animals to appear. And I'm pretty sure you can see that I use proxies for my lions, right? So that's just one example of how you can actually very quickly visualize data in MapInfo in 3D. Let's just close this down and I'll give you another very quick example here. I'm going to open up another workspace. I have a workspace with countries of the world, basically. So another way to display data in 3D is using a globe view. So again, I'll go to my 3D. I'm going to create a new 3D map. In this case, I'm not going to use any elevation sources. I'm just going to pick my layers from my map. And I want to specify that I want to see it in a different globe, a different view. In this case, a globe view. I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to pick all my layers in this case. And you can see I get a new 3D map where I have a globe view of my map in this case. I can rotate it, and in that way I actually control what part of the world I'm looking at. I also want to actually draw your attention to the 3D layers panel that pops up whenever you open up a 3D map. It's kind of similar to what you know from the layer control or the layer list. It gives you an overview of all the layers you have in the map, and it also allows you to control how they're displayed. So you can very quickly turn on and off the visibility of your layers, and you can control the styling. You probably also noticed that the styling of my maps in the 3D is quite similar to the styling in my 2D map. So really, the new 3D capability of MapInfo increases those possibilities for visualization, and it really broadens your mapping activities as well. So in the next demo here, I'm going to show you how you can use the 3D view to actually benefit or even enlarge the benefit of a thematic map, right? So the thematic map is quite helpful when you want to look at data, but it can even be improved further with the new 3D visualization. So let's try to go back to MapInfo again. I'm going to close everything again here, and I'm going to open up yet another workspace. So this time it's data from my neighborhood. So what you see here is buildings that have been colored using a thematic map. And the value you see that I'm using here is the water consumption, right? So how much water are each of those buildings actually using? And it's quite easy to see which one are the high and the low users of water, right, or spenders of water. But if you look at the individual bins, like the top users here, it can be hard to actually see whether this building up here is one of the high ones or in the lower range of that bin, right? So that is not really easy to see in a thematic map. You can see that they are in the top, but you can't see whether they are in the top or in the bottom of that top bin here. So let me show you how 3D can actually help you understand your data even better with just a few clicks. So again, I'm going to go to my 3D tab. I'm going to create a new 3D map. Again, I'm going to pick my MapSend terrarium source. I'm going to surface it with my precisely bronze that I'm also using as my base map here. And then I'm going to add some additional layers from my map window. And in fact, I only need one layer. I only need my buildings. And you'll notice that it actually tells you that it's bringing over one seam as well to your 3D map. Gonna say OK. And now you can see the 3D map. Let's just try to actually put them side by side. So I can put them in a new vertical tab, and you can actually see they are quite similar, right? I can even take my 3D map and do a top view. So I see completely down on it from the top, and now it's even more similar than the other one over here. One thing you'll notice is that over here I still have my buildings that actually have a zero consumption. They're shown with this white color here. The question is now, how can I actually improve my visualization in my 3D map? So one thing you can do here is that you'll be able to change how you visualize your data. So still, as I did in the earlier demo, you can still use your control and your mouse to kind of rotate and tilt your map, zoom into it. But as you see, all my buildings here, they're flat. So you see it in a kind of a very 2D way, right? Even though you have a 3D window. So what we want to do now is we want to assign a value to our buildings that can make up the height. So from the buildings layer here, I can check the extrude option. And now I can use the expression builder here to actually specify a value. Well, typically you might use some values that are elevation based, but it could also be a value that is more like an attribute. In this case, I'm going to use my water usage and hit OK. You don't see anything change, but I need to just click the auto option and apply my changes. And now you can see how my buildings actually suddenly stand out from the flat map or from the map. And very quickly you can identify the high spenders in your data set. So if you can rotate it a bit and move it, you can see where you actually have those high spenders. They are just those buildings here that pop up out into the sky, basically. I just want to highlight one more thing here. So if you look at the interaction option up here, you'll be able to get the information from the records as well when you click on them in the info window. So if I click on one of those, you see that it zooms to that building in my map, and it also shows the attributes in my info window. So you'll be able to actually inspect your objects directly from the 3D window as well. So as you saw, a 3D view can give you a different perspective and can bring out important information way better than the 2D view alone does. And now on to the third of my demos here. So many of you probably work with objects that have a C value, like buildings or trees or similar. And up until now, you have only been able to see those data in a flat 2D view. So in the next demo, I'll show you how you can actually take advantage of objects with C values in the 3D map. Let's go back to MapInfo again and close everything here and open up another workspace. So as Jen also mentioned, we are saving the 3D windows to workspaces as well. So that means that you'll be able to actually save them and then recreate them when you open up your workspace. And that can be done in MapInfo Pro Viewer as well. So if you have that installed somewhere, they will be able to open workspaces with 3D maps as well and visualize those. So what you can see here, I already have my 3D map open. I have some buildings. I have some grid lines that kind of illustrates the height difference in my area here. And if I move over to my normal map, you can see I also have some power lines here crossing through the entire area. So let's try to show those in a 3D map as well. I've already used the draw tools capabilities to assign values to the nodes on both the polylines but also those masts that I've drawn here that are actually standing from the ground and holding the power lines. Go back to the window again here. I'll just turn off the grid. I don't need that for now. Auto and apply here. And from the 3D option, I'll be able to add layers from up here, but I can actually also add them over here using the plus button. So here I can just click and let's say I want to specify or add additional layers. In this case, I could decide I would use the filter option here to actually filter out those I'm looking for. In this case, I know I'm only looking for 2, so I'm just going to use the uncheck all here. And now I'm going to pick those 2 layers I want to bring over. In this case, it's the power cable and the power mast wired layer. Let's bring that in to the 3D view. And you can see that it immediately actually stands out from the ground so that you can see that it has been assigned C values on the nodes. So if we zoom in a bit, you can start actually playing with how it actually displays when you locate yourself in a certain area, maybe in the middle of this small village here. See how you can actually see those power lines as they run across the countryside here. So I hope that gives you some idea on how that 3D data can be used here. So let me give you one more example here. So there's a company that has proposed to build a new silo in the area just outside the small village here. And I want to show you how you can actually visualize that new silo in a 3D window. I'm just going to go back to my 2D map. And the area we're talking about is actually right up here. So in this small field here, they are actually considering building a large silo for corn or other products from the farmers around the area here. So what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to use my tools here. I'm going to make my cosmetic layer editable. I'm going to draw a ellipse or a circle here. I don't care too much about the size here because I'm going to fix that. Just going to double click on it here and say, well, I know it's going to be 24 meters in radius. Now I have the right size and I can position it somewhere here where I know it's going to be placed. And the last thing I want to do is I want to convert that into a polygon or a region, as we call it as well. So now I have my region here. I'm going to save that into a new layer. So from the cosmetic here, I can save it into a new layer. Proposed silo. Let's just overwrite that one. So now you saw I just draw a basic polygon here that I want to show in my 3D window. Let's go back to the 3D window. And from here, I'm going to add a 2D layer, basically. I'm going to uncheck the other layers. So I'm just going to select my proposed silo and bring that in to my 2D window. I think I made a mistake here. It doesn't look as if it was actually rendered the right way. It is a... Try again. I think that was better. No? Seems to be laying all over my area here. Just see if I change it slightly, if that changes it as well. So the idea here is to actually make it relative to the terrain, and then also extrude it. Maybe that was actually the issue here. And I want to make it 25 meters high because that's the height of it. And you can actually see that it stands out here in the background. Let's just zoom in a bit and place ourselves again here in the city and see how we can potentially see that building. So you can see it out here in the background actually, that it's standing up quite higher than the existing buildings in this area. And you can also move yourself closer to it and see how that's gonna change the way you look at that area, right? See how that actually, how it stands out from the neighboring buildings. And even just trying to imagine you drive by it here gives you quite a good idea on how big a building we are talking about in this case. So using tables with Z values allows you to add objects with a true height to your 3D map and really makes it able to appreciate spatial data in a more realistic way, right? So I hope that gives you some idea on how you can benefit from the new 3D visualization capabilities of MapInfo Pro version 2023. I think I'm going to hand it back to you again, Jan.
Thanks, Peter. That was a great set of that was a great set of demos. If I knew there was going to be dinosaurs, I would bring my collection.
I had no idea there were dinosaurs in Africa. Man, I'm learning so much from this demo. Thank you, Peter.
I hope you paid attention, and I said it was a proxy, right? So I just wasn't able to find any lion 3D model, so I just picked some dinosaurs instead.
Okay.
That is amazing.
Well, that clears
I don't
up.
think we have the dinosaurs on the list of options here, but we would love to hear from our users. What would you use the 3D visualization for? And while we're at it, and we're collecting the answers from the previous questions, we have users joining from different industries. There's healthcare, urban economics, manufacturing, utilities, media industry. So many people are seeing the value in MapInfo Pro. So that's always great to hear.
Yeah. It's amazing how many different industries can use our software.
That's great.
So let us know, what are you going to use 3D for? Peter gave you some good ideas. With or without dinosaurs. It's up to you.
Or elephants.
That's all up to you.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe I should add to that as well, those 3D shapes I showed here, I just found some sites online where you can actually download those. Some of those are for free. Others you might have to pay a few bucks for, right? And depending on the usage, check the license that comes with those models as well, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, we got our results here, and overwhelming majority of users are going to visualize attribute as height and visualize buildings, towers, trees, and dinosaurs. On the ground. Yeah, so that's great to hear. We're about to move.
People doing underground. Sorry, Ruslan. This is
No worries. Yeah.
Right. I think
That's
we got a lot
question.
more from our mining friends the other day. So, good to know. But it doesn't always have to be mining. Could be, underground water pipes. Could be anything. But again, negative elevation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really like that 40 or almost 43% actually want to show attributes as height, because I really think that is a powerful feature. And that is something everybody can use, right? You don't really need to have data that has elevation or C values assigned to it, right? Just brings out those high and low spenders so clearly when you see it in that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're about to move to the open forum, so I just want to encourage everybody to ask your questions to our panel of experts. And this has been great. Thanks, Peter. And we're moving on to the open forum. The first question, Peter, was for you, and it was, what's your favorite customer requested enhancement in this release, if you have one?
Well,
That's tough.
sometimes it's actually the small things, right? And one of the features we added in that category is the ability to turn off the visibility of the cosmetic layer. That is just something that I've been looking for, I don't know how many times, right? And just having that ability there, it was so small and simple a thing that we just wonder, why didn't we do that before, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, small things that make the difference.
Yeah, it's true.
Jen, do you have a favorite one, or?
I mean, anything with dinosaurs, but that, you know, I don't know if I have a favorite small one, but yeah, doing 3D, that was really, really exciting for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a nice second place for me, Jen.
Yeah.
I'm on
Okay.
board with that one. Yeah.
All right. All right, let's see what else we've got for questions. Please add your questions, add away. And we also, remember, we have Bob here to answer like technical questions about what was built, what, you know, anything like that if you're interested. And just to remind you, we want to hear from you as you use version 2023, as you're playing around with 3D. Let us know what you're thinking. This was our first release in a long time with 3D. So, and we want to be able to continuously develop it. So please let us know your thoughts.
Absolutely. Do you see any questions you want to take first? I see the one about when will I be able to have MapInfo Pro online? I don't know if you want to take that one.
That's a good one. Yes, and that's a question we do get often, actually. So having online mapping capabilities is something that MapInfo Pro customers have been asking for a while, and we are super lucky. We've recently, at Precisely, acquired a company called Transurf, and they had an online mapping platform, and we have rebranded them as Map Reveal. So we're actually working on soon having an integration between MapInfo Pro and Map Reveal so that you can very easily send your MapInfo maps up to your online mapping tool, which would be Map Reveal, and be able to interact with them there and share throughout your organization or share publicly. So I think the answer to that is we have it. And we're super excited that we have it. If anyone is interested in learning more about Map Reveal, please do contact us or, you know, anybody at Precisely, and we will get you a demo. But it's a great product. I think it has, you know, maybe like the top 10, 20% of functionality that, say, like MapInfo Pro has, but it's a very simple, you know, simple to use interface. So I think for those of you who use MapInfo Pro, Map Reveal could have a place in your organization to help you, you know, distribute those insights throughout your organization, you know, in an easy way. So let us know what you think. I love being able to say yes to that question.
Thanks, Jen. We have a lot of, yeah, we've been getting a lot of those questions, and so it's good. It feels good to be able to say yes. And if people are wondering, we're getting a lot of questions. I see Peter and Bob actively answering them.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to read them too. So okay, I have one just sort of quick clarification around how you do an upgrade. So if you need help with that, you can email support at precisely.com. Excuse me. If you need help getting your version 23 serial number, you can just send us an email. That will create a case and we'll get it for you. It is free of charge if you're currently on a supported version of MapInfo Pro and you're current on maintenance or you're on a subscription. So go ahead and do it. It's at no cost to you. You see any more we think we should answer to the audience? Oh, I will also say I'm going to take all of these questions. We will, if we don't get to answer all of them now, we're going to take them, we'll summarize it, and we will post it on the knowledge community for people to read through.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have about 5-7 minutes more to answer your questions live, and if we don't get to them, we'll follow up. There was a question to Bob. What feature does Bob like? Bob, do you have a favorite feature?
Oh, that's an easy question to answer.
Okay.
Yes. 3D, especially the underground 3D. People keep asking me about underground and drill holes and things. And since the beginning, we got some good test data from our partner in Australia, Datamine, who works in the mining industry. And it's really satisfying to visualize the underground drill hole data. It looks so cool.
It does.
Absolutely. There's a question I can answer. Can I? May I? There's a question about will be great with population density at zip code. Any examples? We don't have any examples and demos today, but if you go to our press release, actually the picture on the press release shows exactly that. So
Perfect. Look at that. All right. But yeah, you can visualize anything you want in 3D. You could visualize number of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches eaten per capita if you wanted to. Anything you want. And it's going to tell you more about it. Let's see. Oh, sample data.
There's one comment about the marketplace. What about change to marketplace? Well, there hasn't been any change to the marketplace itself. It's more changes to the tools in the marketplace that we made with this release, right? Hopefully that answered that question. Otherwise, please post a new one if that wasn't clear enough, that answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, wow. We had a compliment for you, Peter. Said you're responsive and you're great to work with. So nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, Edward? I feel like you have a very specific question in here about proportional overlay and other things. I think you should email us. We might need some more information to answer that. Oh, there's a question on are runtimes available yet? Yes, it is. That is available as well. We released MapInfo Pro and runtime as well.
there was a question about sample data. Do you want to take that one, Jen?
Yeah, let me look. That was yes. So we do have sample data included with MapInfo Pro. We don't have 3D sample data. It's not something that we currently have in our portfolio at Precisely, but it is something that we're looking into. I know our data team is looking at adding height information to buildings, some of our buildings and parcels data, which will be cool. And then we would actually be able to use that in MapInfo, and we could allow people to use a sample of it. So you can always get samples from us, or it's also included with your download. But 3D not yet. So first of all, if anyone on the call has 3D data that they would like to share with us and we can package it as sample data, we'd love to. But it's not an area in which we currently have data. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions.
I know there's
some of them are
look through.
pretty in depth. Yeah.
Right. Oh. An upper limit on the number of building polygons supported in a single 3D view. Peter, you want to take that?
Yeah, I pushed a question or answer to that one. I haven't tested it to the extent of when it breaks or something, but I actually tried showing, I think it was around 800,000 buildings from the Madrid area. And that works quite fine actually in
Wow.
the 3D window. It might also depend on the resources on your machine. Right? I didn't check whether I had a high amount of resource usage in MapInfo when I did that or not. But might rely on that as well. Not really sure.
You know what, there was actually a question, looks like from Mario, about the resources needed. So any changes or anything that we want to tell people about machine requirements with the new 3D?
I just replied quickly, but we haven't updated the machine requirements for MapInfo based on adding 3D. We haven't really seen any limitations, although I will say almost all modern machines have a GPU, which that's what OpenGL rendering uses extensively as a GPU. So if you don't have one of those, you might see problems, but I don't think that's a real limitation.
Yeah, we haven't broken it yet, and we've been working with some pretty big data. So, all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we probably got more questions that we can answer within the time of this webinar, but we'll definitely get back to you. We'll post all the answers to the questions in the knowledge community following the webinar. I want to say thank you to Jen, Peter, and Bob for being here and answering the questions. Before we go, I have a couple of more slides to cover about the resource enablement. Just the things that are available for you to learn more about MapInfo Pro. So I'll run through these fairly quickly. Chances are you joined this webinar because you saw a note in your MapInfo Pro starting screen. There's a lot of information in the MapInfo Pro itself that you can follow and learn more about what's happening around MapInfo Pro. So that's one resource that you have. I already mentioned the knowledge communities where we're going to post answers to all your questions. Knowledge community is also just a great place to go to and ask any questions you might have and get answers and get inspired for your next project as well. We have a MapInfo Pro playlist on YouTube. It's a Precisely YouTube channel and the full playlist where you can learn more about how to download and install MapInfo Pro and how to do different operations in MapInfo Pro as well. So make sure that you check that out as well. MapInfo Monday and MapInfo Monthly from Peter Moeller. So MapInfo Monday comes out every Monday. This week has actually been 4 MapInfo Mondays, so that's a very unique time to be. And then MapInfo Monthly is a newsletter that you can sign up for to stay in the know about all things MapInfo Pro. Lastly, you can follow Precisely pages. You've probably seen an uptake if you've been following of the social media posts. We're going to continue doing so for MapInfo Pro. You're going to see more maps, more visualizations, more things including 3D as well. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll bring more things to you. And as a last thing too, after you've seen everything today, just wanted to gauge how much value do you think 3D visualization will bring you to your job? And you might not know for sure yet because you haven't tried version 2023, but if that's the case, now is the time to try it. While we're collecting the responses, again, just wanted to say thank you for everybody joining. Thank you for our speakers. I thought it was a great presentation, a great set of demos as well. And yeah, let's see the results. So I think I didn't give enough time to collect the results, to be frank, but I think we had too many questions to answer. Let's just assume and hope that this will be a very helpful feature for you. And yeah, with that, I'll wrap up today's webinar. Thanks again, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.